Hello, Canucks fans. Welcome back to another episode of Canucks Conversation, brought to you by Bet365. My name is Dave Quadrelli. I am joined by Jeff Paterson today. J-Pat co-hosting the show with me. Jeff, how was the weekend? How you doing?
Yeah, I feel like we got some catching up to do here, Dave. It's been a while. It has been a while. I haven't done this show in a long time, and haven't done Sakaris and Price for a little while as well. So kind of been laying low, but had a pretty good summer and played a lot of golf. And the weekend was it was fine. I mean, a little rainy for a change, but all things considered, I'm excited, and I geek out about this every year. 1 month from training camp, like we grind through the off season and the months when the Canucks aren't playing, but other teams are, and handing out the Stanley Cup and free agency and the draft and everything else. And then there's that lull. But like now to me, it starts to ramp up again, because you can honestly say, like, we're within a month. As of today, we're within a month of training camp. And there will be things before then, obviously. But 1 month from today, they'll hit the ice in Penticton, and we'll finally start to get some answers about what this team might look like.
And I say this every year. I say this to you. I say this to everyone who writes anything for CA. Training camp's our Super Bowl. Like, that is when we send like way too many people to training camp. And this year's going to be the same thing. We've got a lot of CA staff heading to training camp, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to get a lot of content from it. We exhaust ourselves at training camp, but we like to do that. I really enjoy going to training camp. I really enjoy getting all the content that we get from training camp. And we're sending a big crew again. We just booked the Airbnb. Little Pac-Man machine downstairs this time.
Saw that. Not a little Pac-Man. Like, it's a full-size arcade. Like, it's like they ripped off Greta and took Pac-Man out the back door. Now they got a full-on foosball table.
Foosball.
Yeah, it's going to be good. And
we're going to do some content from there, right, Jacob?
Yes, absolutely. And I was going to say, like, putting it out to the listeners, what do you want to see from us at training camp, right? Obviously, we're going to get your scrums with the coaches and players and live live footage from practice and all sorts of stuff. We're going to do shows. But hey, if there's anything that you want us to see, any coverage you want from training camp, let us know, and we'll see if we can make it happen.
Yeah, we put out a lot of good content.
No, I sent you guys an email. I don't know if the attachment came through last week. Did you see?
Oh, yeah.
The Airbnb, like, you sent me the address. And so I just put the address in Google and wanted to see if I could see some photos and see what I could find out about the place that we were going to stay. Because we had a great place last year. Like, this one's got a lot to live up to, because last year was almost perfect. Walking distance, patio, we each had our own bedrooms, like big space, all that kind of stuff. So I put the address in Penticton in Google, and what comes up, I guess a dozen years ago, this house was an absolute eyesore to the point that neighbors went to council because they wanted it basically bulldozed. It was just a complete mess. Now, so I'm scared as I'm reading, and then I say, oh, this is 12 years ago. So
they got their wish. It looks like they got their wish.
I think so. It looks like a new build now, and it looks outstanding, and I'm excited. But yes, this place has a history, and the history is that the neighbors did not like what was going down. I won't give the address out because people can, they'd probably go and look themselves, maybe try and find us when we're there. We don't need that. So we'll keep the address to ourselves, but whatever the case, a dozen years have gone by. I think it has been completely gutted and rebuilt. Probably bulldoze. It probably was. It was probably knocked down and built back up. Anyways, it looks sweet now, so I'm excited about this year's headquarters for Canucks Army and Canucks Convo.
Jacob asked for content ideas, and people are coming up clutch here. Big Hog Hockey said Family Feud with Canucks players. I'm going to say it right now. If there's one Canucks player that we can have on Family Feud that I think A, would be good at it, and B, would want to do it, like if we approach them with it and would want to do it, Jake DeBrusk. Yeah. Do you have a better pick? Like, you agree with me, it's Jake DeBrusk, right? Like, I think he'd be great at this.
No, I had somebody in one of my mailbags over the summer ask me who do I think would be the best duo for the Amazing Race among Canucks players. And I said, you have to keep in mind that first and foremost, Amazing Race is a television show. It's television production. They want characters. They want big personalities. And so Jake DeBrusk was the number one guy. Then I had to find a wingman for him, and I kind of thought Connor Garland would be fun. I think those two guys as an Amazing Race team. But yeah, I think Jake DeBrusk would be up to just about any challenge that you put in front of him or asked of him, whether it's on TV, off TV, whether it's Family Feud here on this show. But yeah, I think Jake DeBrusk would be down to do the feud.
Nick Pocek wants to see a Canucks media members Pac-Man tournament. That's something I think we can easily make happen. And then Rat said something that we're actually going to be doing. He said, I'd like to see isolated footage of players. Kravtsov, Höglander. Again, we're a month out. And Jeff, like you said, there's some serious questions about this team still. We don't know what the forward group is going to look like. We have a rough idea, but there's some questions heading into camp. We're going to get into those. Another thing I want to talk about was your breakout candidates article that you wrote at Canucks Army, but we're going to get to that later. First, I want to make sure people know about our pal Tyler Yaremchuk, his hole-in-one challenge right now going on at the Oilers Nation YouTube channel. Jacob's keeping an eye on it for us, and he'll let us know if he gets it. Basically, our boss, when I say our, I mean everyone on this call, Jay Downton, he challenged Tyler to hit a hole-in-one in 24 hours. And Tyler said, yeah, if I had 24 hours, I could do it. So he's on a 160-yard par 3. And he has 24 hours to do it. He's 8 hours into the challenge. He's hit well over 1,000 balls. They've raised a ton of money for charity, which is awesome. And he has come really, really close. Twice within the past hour, he's come within inches of the hole, but he has not hit it yet. So if you want to check that out, Oilers Nation, it's a live stream. It'll still be going for 24 hours. So.
Yeah.
Do either of you guys know Tyler's his golfing ability?
Yes, he's good. He's a good golfer.
Okay.
He's a really good golfer.
I think he said he's a 7 handicap.
Oh, okay. All right.
And he was just in Hawaii, like golfing all over Hawaii. So
he's a good girl.
He's a good golfer, and he is not rusty. So
which brings me.
I tuned in this morning, and he was telling a story about lost luggage, and I was like, just hit it, just swing, let's go. And he, like, understandably, you can't just nonstop. So this may have been a little bit of a break for him. And I noticed right away he was wearing 2 gloves, and I guess that makes sense if you're going to be doing that all day. That's your hands are going to take a beating. So fingers crossed for him. What an undertaking. And I love the response that the people of Oilers Nation, but beyond that, the Nation Network, it's all for charity, and they're raising a ton of dough already. So good on him, and I do hope that one of them falls for him.
Jeff, you're a good golfer. Do you think you could do this? If I give you 24 hours on a 160-yard par 3.
I've never had a hole-in-one. So I'm frustrated. I'm still waiting for mine. I don't know. I mean, there's such a huge element of luck involved in ultimately putting the ball in the hole. When you said, I guess in my mind, I thought he was just going to be throwing wedges. So 160 yards,
you're using irons,
right? No, I mean, again, if he's a good golfer, that's like 8 iron or 7 iron probably for him. So that just adds to it.
So I will say he was using like a 7 iron early. He's gone up to like a 4 iron, swinging it at about 70% because he's 1,100 swings in. He's gassed already.
I thought beforehand, but when I heard this challenge, I was like, oh, 24 hours. Yeah, I could do that for sure. I have a hole-in-one. I hit one at a pitch and putt once, and I was stoked about it. But after watching Tyler do it, and also the fact that it's 160 yards, I flat out don't think I could do it, because I also don't know how he's done it for 8 hours. I would get tired. I would get too tired. I know my strengths. I don't have the muscle endurance to handle this kind of challenge. I wouldn't be able to do it. I thought maybe before seeing the challenge that I might be able to, but now that I've seen it and seeing him do it, I don't think I could do it.
I have faith in you, Quads, but again, at the end of the day, there's a huge. I mean, you can hit it absolutely pure, and he's had a couple that have come close, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, what is the difference between a ball deciding to drop in as opposed to just take a right turn and just lip out or whatever the case? So again, he's got time on his side here. Still, he's got a lot of time left, but the body's going to start to break down. He's going to wear down. Frustration's going to mount. So I kind of the last hour, I would think you get that final surge, but in those hours leading up to the final hour, I would think there would be a ton of frustration if he hasn't been able to jar one.
Yeah, and Bag Milk and Jay are out there with him right now, but I don't know how late those guys are going to stay. So I think it would be a different game.
They've all been taking shifts. Different people. Chalmers was there for a bit. Liam was there for a bit. The Oilers Nation crew is cycling.
Would be if he stepped aside for 5 minutes and somebody else stepped in and took a couple swings.
Actually,
and knocked one in.
That has happened. People, if you donate, you can donate $50. You can actually go and take some shots against him closer to the pin. If you're closer to the pin, you'll win a gift certificate. So that has come up. Hey, what happens if one of these celebrity shots ends up getting the hole-in-one? in their 3 shots rather than your,
All
1,300.
right. Let's get some hockey chat. Let's get some hockey chatter. Before I do that, I want to tell everybody about our Super Chat charity partner this season, the BC Mental Health Foundation. You want to make sure your question or comment gets on the show, hit us with a Super Chat. Proceeds from our Super Chat will go to the BC Mental Health Foundation, changing the face of mental health and addiction by supporting breakthroughs in care, public understanding, research, and knowledge exchange. Jeff, I want to start this conversation about training camp with, I said there's a few questions about the forward group. Realistically, we know what the top 6 is going to look like, and you might even say the top 9. And I've said for a while now, this team is a top 9 center away from looking totally different. Like, you get so much more out of your wingers if you have Jack Roslovic or Marco Rossi, whoever. If you have one of these guys that's a bona fide top 9 center, as opposed to taking a flyer on Atu, or taking a chance on Atu Ratu, taking a step forward. Again, a guy in your breakout candidate article, or Teddy Bluger. Like, that is going to elevate Nils Höglander. That's going to elevate whoever is on that third line. So that's the big question mark I have for this team. Is I've kind of flip-flopped a bit, shocker for a lot of people, on if I want them to go get a center before training camp. And I kind of made the case that, you know what, you don't need to back up the Brinks truck right now and handcuff yourself potentially. Let's see how the team does a month or 2 into the season. I would say this team now, like, just the way I'm looking at it and the way I brought up that you get so much more out of your wingers if you have a Roslovic instead of a Bluger or Ratu in between those wingers. I'm thinking this team needs a center ahead of training camp.
Right. So a couple of things jump to mind. One is it's August 18th. It's not September 18th. And we saw last year that they signed Kevin Lankinen on the back end of training camp, and he was able to still come in and make an impact right away. Slightly different just because goalies, it's such a numbers game, and there really weren't that many options. Roslovic has options. But it sounds like the Canucks are legitimately one of them. And I haven't completely closed the door there. I guess I'm a little surprised that Roslovic on the 18th of August wouldn't want to start thinking about his new hockey home and getting there and set up. And I don't know what his family situation is, if you got kids, but there's schools and those types of things. Like, it is getting a little bit late in the day, but he's going to play somewhere. And so I think the Canucks are still in the running, and it becomes this game of chicken where the teams are hoping they can lowball and get him to panic. And he's hoping the flip side of that is that, even one team, if they think, like, we aren't good enough, we better just take the plunge here, even if it's for 1 year, and he's hoping that they will meet his asking price. So we'll see where it goes. But I mean, every indication is the Canucks have done enough tire kicking here that they're not closing the door just because he hasn't signed. So I'm with you. My biggest question is and always has been Elias Paterson, and it's great that he vowed revenge on the NHL. And he said the right things, but I am in that camp that it's summertime and, it doesn't really matter what you say. It's because we said the same things last year. Oh, he's going to show up motivated, look out. Yep. And we know how last year went. So to me, all questions about this hockey club start with number 40. But beyond that, like, where does Evander Kane slot in? Like, I haven't had a chance to talk to Adam Foote yet about, like, what does he think he has in a 34-year-old Evander Kane who had his moments in the playoffs, didn't play at all last year in the regular season, talked about how that he felt that rolled back the odometer, and, it's contract year for him. Like, I know Patrick Galvin kind of talked about him being a top 9 guy, but I wonder if Adam Foote has other ideas. Like, do they see him playing higher in the lineup? Do they think he is the kind of guy that an Elias Pettersson needs to get in there and win some battles and, like, turn pucks over and get the puck into the hands of Petey? So, you said, like, the top 6, top 9 is set. I think the names perhaps, but with, how it all shakes down. And that's why, like, for me, training camp's going to be fascinating, and it always is. And some years there's fewer jobs up for grabs. But it's not even so much the jobs to me. It's you've got a first-year head coach who doesn't have any margin for error. Like, this team has to get it right just about every step. It kind of goes back to what Jim Rutherford said 2 years ago. And so, like, I hope that they run some line combinations, legitimate line combinations at training camp. Like, don't experiment, don't mess around. Training camp's short, I get that. And you're not going to stick with it right through the preseason. But if you're Adam Foote, you want to hit the ground running. You can't afford to have the kind of start that Bruce Boudreau did a couple of seasons ago where things went completely off the rails. So, to me, I am fascinated about the approach. Adam Foote's a Rick Tocchet disciple. Like, those guys are cut from the same cloth. It would make sense if Adam Foote basically just kept Rick Tocchet's playbook from last year. And so I think camp is going to look and feel a lot like it did, even though there's been a change in terms of who's running the show. And there's new staff as well. But I don't see a lot of experimentation. I think you're going to see Adam Foote kind of just get down to business on day one. They're back in Penticton, familiar surroundings. I wrote about that when they made the announcement. I think it's great that, the logistics, just everything is easier for a first-time head coach knowing how to get into the building. Stupid stuff like that. But just whatever can ease Adam Foote's life as a first-time head coach in the National Hockey League. I think I'm all for it. And so I am really curious, what is his attack and what are his sort of, 2 or 3 focus points on what he's trying to instill in this group at training camp.
I absolutely agree with you, especially the part about getting your line combos figured out early. Now, I can't remember the exact year. I remember complaining about it a lot. I absolutely hate the idea of all this experimentation in training camp in the preseason. I want to see those lines right from day one. And we've seen that before, right? And if we see that, back to your thing about Evander Kane, I would assume that he's on Elias Pettersson's wing to start the year. They've seen Elias Pettersson play with Jake DeBrusk, although I did find it interesting when I wrote about DeBrusk recently that his most common line mates were Brock Besser and JT Miller. And Connor Garland was in that conversation as well. He spent a good amount of time with Garland, but played, I think, just over 100 minutes at 5-on-5 with Elias Pettersson. So to some extent, they've seen it. I would think Evander Kane gets that first shot. Evander Kane's going to play some games in the preseason, I would think, with Elias Pettersson. I think that's where they're looking at this. I think it's like what you just said about what they think he might be able to bring to Pettersson's line. You just puff out your chest a little bit more when you're playing with Evander Kane, I think is maybe what they're thinking. So I would say Evander Kane gets that shot.
So do you think it's Kane, Pettersson, and Besser then? Like, that your...
I think that's your first line.
And that's fair enough. And I think, and look, they're not the same player, but they have some similarities. I mean, when you go back to the Lotto line, like JT was the motor that was running. He was the guy that was aggressive in on the forecheck and all those types of things. Like, I think if they go that way, that's what they're looking to Evander Kane for. They're not looking for him to put up 90 points like JT was able to do, but, in some ways, JT Miller light, but just crossing or checking the boxes on that line. So you're right. But then, then that leaves Jake DeBrusk on the outside and Philip Hedl. I mean, we barely saw any of Philip Hedl. And finding chemistry with Philip Hedl, who, was this puck transporter and his speed was noticeable, but kind of had the blinders on, wasn't a terrific playmaker. Is that putting Jake DeBrusk in the best position to come back and try and build off his 28-goal season? I do think that there are some square pegs and round holes here, but that's across the board on a lot of teams, and that is what the preseason ultimately is about and for. So, we'll see. So, I'm not disagreeing with you that Evander Kane, but boy, when they made the trade, like the idea that they were picking up a guy that was going to be on their top line to start the season, that is a cast-off from a Stanley Cup team who, has injury issues, has had off-ice issues, although to his credit, the last couple of years, it sounded like he was a good corporate citizen in Edmonton, and hopefully that continues. But when they made that deal with the Oilers, that didn't feel like the Canucks were picking up a piece that was going to be a top line guy for a club that has to make the playoffs. But as the dust sort of settles here, that's kind of where I'm with you. That's kind of how I think on day one of camp, we're likely to see that line up.
Another guy I want to talk about is Jonathan Lekkerimäki. You had him in your breakout candidates article. I wrote about the Calder recently, and when we look at the Calder race this year, it's Ivan Demidov, and then nobody knows who else, right? Like, it's all sorts of names, and Lekkerimäki is at least in that conversation somewhere, a little bit down the list, but he's in that conversation. And the case I made is that if everything breaks right, and one thing that needs to break, I think, for Lekkerimäki to find some success, especially out of the gates and make this roster, is they go get another center. They're not going to run a third line with Aatu Räty and Jonathan Lekkerimäki on it. But they might run one that has Jack Roslovic on it as the center. They might do that, or Philip Hedl. They might do that if Lekkerimäki looks great. But he's going to have to come in. He's going to have to impress, and he's got the undeniable shot. And again, that's something that I hope we don't discount too much. Like, it is a lethal shot. Everyone has a good shot at the NHL level, but his does stand out a little bit. So he's got to do a little bit more. And that's something you even wrote, actually, as I just read over it again. You even wrote at the NHL, everyone can fire the puck. So you're going to have to do more. You're going to have to do more to kind of excel the way that he excelled in the AHL.
Yeah, and look, his shot has been his separator. It has. But as you climb the ranks of professional hockey, that gap narrows because lots of guys can whistle the puck, and then it's what else can you do? And we saw, even in the AHL playoffs, like he had the jaw surgery and that sort of set him back. But in the final, he had the one game where he scored twice, and it was incredible. But there were also long stretches in that final where you were left wanting more from him. And now it's a short offseason for him to bulk up, which he clearly needs to do. So, look, I've got a long list of guys that I'm going to be really focused on at training camp, and absolutely he is on it. I just think right now there's this logjam of NHL wingers, and then you throw Vitaly Kravtsov into the mix, and what does that do for, that feels like a bit of an obstacle for Jonathan Lekkerimäki. So we'll have to wait and see how that all plays out. It's funny because I wrote 6 breakout candidates for the Canucks, and I didn't have Kravtsov on it. And I saw in the comments, lots of people are like, how can you have a list like this and not have Kravtsov? And fair enough. I suppose he is a breakout candidate, but we also ran a poll the day after the signing when I was hosting Canucks Price and said, is this guy going to play 20 games for the Vancouver Canucks this season? And it was like 80% didn't think that he would even get 20 games. So, he's got a contract that though he requires waivers, like he's getting $450,000 in the minors. Other teams aren't going to want to take that on. Like, that's real money that they have to write checks for. And so I think he might get through waivers. I'm talking about Kravtsov here. And so I don't know. I need to see it because, boy, the 16 games that he played after he was traded here the last time, a total non-factor. And I know that he went to the K and has had a couple of good years. And last year, obviously, those numbers popped. Can he bring that? That's the massive question around this guy. So I have trouble right now penciling Vitaly Kravtsov into a top 9 spot on the Vancouver Canucks, and I don't think he's a fourth line guy, even if the fourth line for the Canucks isn't a fourth line where you're banging and crashing and smashing guys and fighting. So I don't know where he fits, but just the fact that they brought him back here in August, to me, feels like one more body that Jonathan Lekkerimäki has to leap over to make the club out of training camp. And I just wonder if Lekkerimäki wouldn't be served best by going back to Abbotsford and being an absolute, top of the lineup every night, big minutes, just continue to build out your game. And he had 19 goals last year in the American Hockey League as a 20-year-old. It was still a really good first year as a pro in North America, even though there were some ups and downs. I think that's to be expected. So, I read your column first because you wrote it a little earlier about Rookie of the Year at the NHL level. I think an awful lot would have to fall his way, but he qualifies. So, let's see how this year pans out for him.
Victor Mancini, another guy on your list. Found this one really interesting to talk about, and we'll shift away from the forwards now because I do want to focus here on Mancini. You also had Willander there, but Willander, I think, we're all hoping that it's going to be a breakout for Willander. But again, we talk about a logjam. We talk about bodies you got to leap over. Victor Mancini, it looks like a pretty crowded blue line. Harmon's talked a lot already about how it doesn't seem like Adam Foote would want to go. And I think Adam Foote kind of told us this himself when he was talking about it. He didn't want to really go with a third pairing that just had young defensemen on it in Elias Paterson, Victor Mancini, or Tom Willander on that right side. And obviously they signed Derek Forbort to another contract. So that's not going to be the case, it looks like. Victor Mancini, though, how do you see his season shaking out?
Well, you could barely take his eye off him in Abbotsford in that Calder Cup run. Big body, skates well. The confidence with which he played at the American Hockey League level was in stark contrast to what we saw after the trade as he tried to, get his footing in a new organization, traded at the NHL level for the first time. You can understand that comes with challenges. A big personality, likable guy, wants to get better, but he was a totally different player, and I think different things were asked of him at the AHL level and the NHL level. At the NHL level, he was a complimentary piece, even on the third pair, and his puck skills weren't at a level that they had to be to clean exits and transition the puck and all those types of things. And that was with fairly low expectations on a young player. At the AHL level, he was able to skate around and through everybody and generate offense and played in a bunch of situations, and you could just feel the confidence oozing from this guy. So, there's an opportunity there without a doubt. When you look, Quinn Hughes, Philip Hronek, Marcus Paterson, Tyler Myers, I think Derek Forbort probably starts just because they love his penalty-killing utility, and that's why he was brought back. And then let the games begin. DPD, can he slide over and be an every night guy on the right side? He showed last year in 28 games that he didn't look out of place. Does he have the inside track? Then you got Mancini, who's a natural righty. And if you like your lefty righties, and it feels like Adam Foote and certainly Rick Tocchet did, then maybe Mancini has the leg up starting training camp. And then Willander was the last breakout candidate, but also with a massive caveat that he is a wild card who has not played a game of professional hockey, but first-round pedigree, 2 good years at Boston, head on his shoulder, just plays a strong, sort of not flashy game, and that's not what they're looking for right now. As he develops, maybe a little more flash into his game, but right now, you just want him to look the part of an NHL defender, and I don't think he's far off, but just on numbers alone, he may have to start the season down in Abbotsford. So, if he is their breakout star at the end of the season, then, man, so many things have gone well for him individually and for the hockey club, but that kind of feels like maybe a bridge too far. So, is it as simple as it's Mancini or DPD, but then you got Pierre-Olivier Joseph, who was brought into the mix as well, and where does he fall in this? And he's got more NHL experience than either of those two young guys, and so I'm not ruling him out entirely. That was a bit of a curious signing, and it was one of those ones that was just done in the days after July 1st with one quote in a press release, but no, we haven't heard from anybody in the organization about why and why they felt that, this was a piece that they had to have. And, I know the ties are strong to Pittsburgh, and Emily Castonguay represented him as an agent at one point. So they're familiar with the player, certainly, but where he falls in all of this, I think, is anybody's guess right now.
All right. Ready to play some Feud, Jeff? It's your time to shine.
I don't know, but apparently we're going to do it anyhow. So, yes, I'm ready.
Just ahead of Feud, I want to tell you about our friends at Greta Bar YVR. By now, you know that Greta's a great spot to watch the big game, but did you know it's an even better spot for your upcoming part of your event? If you need a venue for a team building or summer social event, check out Greta. They've got the street view menu, they've got the arcade, and of course, they've got the bar. It's always a fun time with plenty of options. Make Greta your spot for your next event. For more info and to book your event, go to gretabar.com. Greta Bar YVR, 50 West Cordova Street is the address. Let the games begin. Take it away, technical producer Jacob Lazar.
I feel like it's been a while, Quads.
It has been.
Yeah, almost a month since we last played Family Feud. Jeff, if you weren't aware, we ended their season. We gave a cutoff point. We said, hey, we'll pick this back up again, probably from training camp. That'll be the start of a new season. So this is an exhibition game.
Okay, I like it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you're in. Hey, talked a little bit about Canucks preseason. Hey, this is Canucks Combo Family Feud preseason.
The Hlinka Gretzky Family Feud. Of
the Hlinka Gretzky Family Feud, exactly. So we've got some fun questions. Some are hockey related, some aren't. But hey, you know what? It's summer. Why not have some fun? Who's going first?
Jeff, your call.
All right, I'll start off.
All right. So for those of you who are new, we play this during the regular season every week. Jeff's going to go first. Sorry, I got that right. Jeff's going first, right? Perfect. Okay. So Jeff's going to have 25 seconds on the clock. His time will begin when I finish reading the first question. Jeff, if you can't think of a response, just say pass. I'll come back to it at the end. I think that's it. Are you ready to go?
Yep.
I am.
Let's do it.
All right, Quads, you got to mute yourself. You got to take those headphones off. No cheating. There we go. All right, Jeff, your time will begin when I finish reading this first question. It's a long one, so just be prepared. With Harmon off spending the summer dominating the local rec sports scene, other than baseball, which sport would Quads be the most successful at?
Pickleball.
Name a Canadian player that will be snubbed from the 26th Olympic team.
Shea Theodore.
How many different head coaches will the Canucks have over the next 10 seasons?
Oh, man. 8.
What is the best summertime activity?
The beach.
Rounded to the nearest 5, how many games will Demko start next season?
45.
45. I'll give it to you. All right. You can wave quads down. Just give them the thumbs up. I'll tally up your score here.
All right, Quads, you got some work to do, I think.
All right.
But I got full confidence in you as the veteran, as the host.
Okay, that's interesting there. Here. Okay, Jeff picked up some points on that one. And you know what, Jeff? You actually did all right. You got to 84 points.
Okay. Within
Quads,
the
that means you're going to need 160.
But
Yes.
I left some good ones on the board for you.
You did. You did leave some good ones on the board. Quads, you're going to have 30 seconds. Your time will begin when I finish reading the very long first question. If you give one of Jeff's answers, you'll hear the buzzer, and I will ask you to try again. If you can't think of a response, say pass. We'll come back to it at the end if we have time. Quads, you ready to go?
Yes.
Once again, you need 116 points.
All right, I'm ready.
And here's your first question. With Harmon off spending the summer dominating the local rec sports scene, other than baseball, what sport would you be most successful at?
Golf.
Name a Canadian player that will be snubbed from the 26th Olympic team.
Horvat.
How many different head coaches will the Canucks have over the next 10 seasons?
7.
Try again.
6.
Try again.
What? 5.
Try
Pause my
again.
timer, Jacob. 3. No, 4. What?
4.
This
Okay.
is crazy. Okay.
There was a range there.
Okay.
So
okay.
yes. I've paused the timer. I'll start it again after this next question. We're giving you an answer of 4. Okay. What is the best summertime activity?
Golf.
Rounded to the nearest 5, how many games will Thatcher Demko start next season?
40.
All right. Good work.
Oh, we just won it, Jeff.
I
hope
like
so.
your
I had
chances.
no idea there was a range on the coach's questions.
Well,
So I was like, Jacob, why are you buzzing me? I gave 4 different answers.
So it's funny. Jeff said 8, and 8 coaches in 10 years would be absolutely absurd.
That's like on pace for what they normally do.
I was going to say, have you been paying attention to the last decade?
Fair enough. All right, so let's go through these. With Harmon off spending the summer dominating the local rec sports scene, other than baseball, what sport would Quads be most successful at? Jeff, you said pickleball. That was the number 2 answer. Quads, you said golf. That was the number 1 answer. So 15 and 22 points respectively there. 9 people, and I love this because it fits the old Italian man thing, said bocce.
That's a good one.
That's a really good one. Name a Canadian player that will be snubbed from the 26th Olympic team. Jeff, nobody said Shea Theodore. So either everyone assumed he's going to make it or just wouldn't be shocked if he doesn't. I would be pretty shocked if he doesn't. So I think the assumption was he's just going to make the team. Number 1 answer, or sorry, Quads, you said Bo Horvat. That was the number 6 answer. Only 5 points, though. Number 1 answer was Logan Thompson, who
Okay.
at this point seems like he's just not going to be on the team. Hockey Canada seems to not like him, despite him pretty clearly being the best goalie that they have to choose from. Number 2 answer, shout out to my guy, Nick Suzuki. Did not make the 4 Nation squad, probably should have. And he just might be the odd one out up front on the Olympic team as well. All right. How many different head coaches will the Canucks have over the next 10 seasons? So hearing your guys' responses, I'm like, maybe I should have changed it. I went like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plus. And I'm like, oh man, these guys, Jeff coming out saying 8, Quads coming out 7, 6. Well, 5 plus only got 8 points.
Really? That's crazy.
Quads,
people are just wrong.
Quads, you drop down to 4. That gets you 21 points.
Oh, all right.
Okay.
Number 1 answer was 3 with 49 points.
I'm sorry. Have these people watched this team? 10 years, 3 coaches? Are you kidding me?
You know what? I think the thought process probably was they're going to give Adam Foote 2 years. Then they're going to hire someone else who's going to get 2 years. And then they finally land on their long-term coach.
Yeah. Okay. Sure.
Quads, I'm with you. It seems a little on the
Hold on. I'm going through
side.
Jacob, keep going. I'm going to go through eras where that's been the case, where they've had less than 5 in one
a
tenure.
10. Yeah.
Didn't happen the first year or the first 10 years. I
think once you get to the 90s, you'll
didn't happen in the 80s.
Stability with Pat Quinn
1, 2,
for those years
3,
probably
4.
was enough.
6. Didn't happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
90s. Okay. Pat Quinn. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah. So 4 in the
5.
90s.
Crawford was hired in 99.
Right.
So
There you go.
5.
Okay.
It's
So
the
there's
odds
0.
from 0 to
Yeah.
10 where it's 2.
Yes.
Yes.
And then
So one era, and the best era of Canucks hockey, and people think we're headed for that. That's awesome. All right. Anyways, keep
Hey,
going.
because
some
you go to the
optimism.
teens, you got AV
Yeah.
was still a head coach, and then Tortorella, and then Willie
Yeah.
D and Travis Green, and on and on. Like,
Yep. It's
People- Sometimes the people get it wrong, Jeff. That's the thing about Family Feud.
okay.
yeah. I was fully expecting 5+ to be the number one answer there, and then again I was a little worried maybe I should have bumped it up to like 7+. But hey, here we are.
I'm scarred. I'm scarred, obviously, by like recent events here, where it just feels like a new head coach every year. So
Yeah.
8's probably pushing it a little.
All right. So you
And
need
let's hope it's not 8.
Oh, let's sure hope it's not 8. You need 68 points from these last 2 rounds. What is the best summertime activity? Jeff, you said beach. That was the number one answer. Quads,
Nice.
you said golf. We grouped it together, just playing sports. That was
Sure.
the number 3 answer.
Nice.
15 points there. So you guys still need 53
What was
points.
number 2?
Number 2 was traveling.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
You guys need 53 points. I don't like your odds. I know what the answers are. I can see them. I'm just saying I don't like your odds. Round it to the nearest 5. How many games will Thatcher Demko start next season? Jeff, you said 45. That was the number one answer. Quads, you said 40. Number 2 answer,
Oh, nice.
but only 18 points.
Oh, big spread there.
Yeah. Number 1 answer, again, 45, 38 votes there.
I had that graphic ready to go pretty quick.
Yeah, I sure did.
That on a hotkey.
Shockingly, nobody said under 30 for number of starts for Thatcher Demko.
Positive
And-
vibes, man.
And only 7 people said 30 on the dot, which means the vast majority believe Thatcher Demko is playing at least 35 games this season. Tough
think
loss,
we did
but hey,
fine.
it's preseason.
It's preseason.
I think the big misses were Logan Thompson and the head coaches, right? Yeah, you pick up the 3 head coaches and Logan Thompson, and you guys are dancing away as easy.
I'm fine with our answers because, like I said, I will there's no chance that they have 3 head coaches over the next 10 years. Just not gonna happen. Anyways, it's all good. People in the chat are saying we're due for a long-term head coach. I don't think that's how it works. You're not due. It's not quite how it works.
Jacob, who else? Just on the snubs, you
Mhm.
mentioned a couple. Who else?
Yeah. All right. So Logan Thompson was number 1, Nick Suzuki number 2, and a couple people in the chat saying they don't get the hype with Nick Suzuki. Just go look at some of his numbers and the matchups he has to play. This guy plays against the other team's best players and is above a point per game guy. He's like not quite Sasha Barkov, but almost trending to that direction. For those of you who aren't familiar with his game,
Dude scores 30 goals. He's a really good center.
Yeah. Number 3 is Mark Scheifele. Number 4, and now we get into low numbers here, like single digits. Number 4, Macklin Celebrini. Number 5, Brad Marchand. Number 6, Bo Horvat. And then there was a couple one-off votes for or 2 votes for Matt Barzal, Tom Wilson, Seth Jarvis, Evan Bouchard got a few as well. One smart Alex said Connor Bedard. Connor McDavid.
I was gonna say Bedard's a good answer.
Bedard is a good answer. There's a few Bedards, but no, one person said Connor McDavid because of course.
I think the chat actually got not the chat, but the listeners actually got this one right. I think 1 and 2, Thompson, Suzuki. I'm upset I didn't think of it, but thinking about it a little more, I think those are.
I think it's very possible that both those guys do not make the team, and they probably both should be on the team.
Yeah,
so
I would take Suzuki over Horvat, I think, and Anyways, okay.
So there we go.
Cool.
Good round
Good
of
warm
Family
up, Jeff.
Feud.
Good warm up.
Good warm up.
Good warm up.
Jeff, we'll have Jeff play again from Penticton during training camp.
Of course.
We'll have some fun. All
Of
right.
course. All right, let's get to anyone else. Anyone else is a presentation of the Vancouver Canadians, who are back at the Nat tomorrow to start a 6-game set with Tri-Cities. The weather's going to be great this week, which me and my fiance, soon-to-be wife, are very excited about. Get out of work early for the Nooner at the Nat on Friday the 22nd. Fireworks on Saturday, and a family fun Sunday. Don't miss it. For tickets, call 604-872-5232 or check out canadiansbaseball.ca. calm. Jeff, have you gotten any C's games this year? I've been slacking. I haven't got.
I went early. I went
Nice.
early, and I just remember Jacob was there because a bunch of us from work went.
Yeah.
And Jacob was pumping up the fact that these games are so fast now with pitch clock and rule changes. And the first 3 innings took 90 minutes. Both pitching staffs were wild, and there were a ton of pitching changes. And the night went, it went along. The C's ended up winning big, which was great. But I haven't been back, and not because the game took a while. I haven't. And yet I hear you guys reading on every show, and when I've hosted shows, I read the same thing. And it got me thinking, like, we're getting to the end of August. Like, I got to get back to the mat here. So,
Jacob,
Jeff,
what was I doing that night? I remember something. The Canucks did something. The Canucks did a move
right. I remember
before, and that's why I couldn't make it.
Yeah. So you weren't available. I don't remember.
I'm gonna go find it.
Yeah, it was in May,
late April,
or late April, early May, somewhere around there. But Jeff, funny thing is, like, we talk about that crazy long game. The last C's game I went to about 3 weeks ago, entire game done in 2 hours 7 minutes.
Perfect.
Yeah,
perfect.
It was a 2-1 final, and we got through the first 3 innings in under 30 minutes. So there you go.
Did you say late April?
Yeah, late April.
I'm scrolling like crazy in our texts. I might not be able to find this. Anyways, the Canucks did something and I couldn't make it, and I was upset about it. But anyways, there was a good question in the chat here from Karn, and it kind of goes back to our conversation from earlier, Jeff. So let's revisit it. It was, who do we think plays more NHL games this season, Mancini or Willander? I think right now, if we're setting odds, it's probably Mancini, right? Like, this management group likes to have their prospects go play in the minors. It doesn't seem like a bad idea for Tom Willander to go be the guy in Abbotsford. And hell, how about if he's joined by Jonathan Lecker-Mackey? Even from a business perspective, think of how many tickets you're selling to the Abbotsford Canucks. Get to watch the top 2 prospects in this organization go play in Abbotsford. That's a good selling point in itself, but also just from a development perspective, this team has shown that they're not afraid to let these guys over-marinate a little bit, and he hasn't played any pro games yet.
Right, and I would look at it 2 different ways. One is, if Mancini ends up playing more than Willander, it means that Mancini has brought his game along to the point that they're comfortable and that he's playing in the big leagues. And if Willander doesn't play a game for the Vancouver Canucks this season, like, this, don't see it as a failure. Like, I get that there is hype. He's a first-round pick. They went through the laborious process to get him signed. But to your point, Dave, that, this management group likes to use the minors. Mm-hmm. They've done a pretty good job of it since moving the team to Abbotsford. Proof's in the pudding. Abbotsford ended up winning the Calder Cup last year. And if Tom Willander goes, if that's where he starts to get his feet wet in professional hockey, then it's not a failure on anybody's part here. This is just part of the process that defensemen take a while. Toughest position maybe at the NHL level to learn on the job. And so, I think if we're setting odds right now, it would have to be Victor Mancini, unless Mancini gets used as trade fodder somewhere along the line. And again, where do the Canucks have depth on defense and at the wing position? If they are going to make a trade, then they're going to have to tap into those areas of strength of the organization. And so we'll see. And I'm not suggesting that Mancini's already on his way out the door, but if they're going to make a trade, some of those young defensemen have to be involved, you'd think, wouldn't you? Like,
but it's getting late, right? Like, it's getting late for a trade. And here's
the thing. They make trades in season all the time. So
yes, sure.
So I'm just saying, like, Mancini could start the season here, but he could be part of a deal at the 20-game mark. And
okay. Sorry.
Although the question was the question was more NHL games, not NHL games for the Vancouver Canucks. So I would say Victor Mancini.
Fair enough. This was one from Lee McBain on Facebook, regular listener to the show, who said, I'm not convinced that Roslovic is an upgrade that is worth the spend versus Hedl and Ratu. In my opinion, he's not a legit 2C in the first place. I'll say this. Couple things here. I don't think it costs too much to get Jack Roslovic. The Canucks have some cap space, obviously. I think they'd be able to sign Roslovic and hopefully still be able to accrue cap space, or at least I'd like to think that that's what they're kind of holding out for, and that's what their offer to Roslovic is looking like right now. And I'll also say that Hedl, let's not forget the concussion history. And I hate bringing it up. I honestly hate bringing it up. I don't want to say it's overblown, but it's brought up every time we talk about Filipino, and I try not to bring it up every time I talk about Filipino, the player. But when we're talking about your center depth, which is now what this conversation is becoming, what if Filipino goes down with an injury? And not even, let's just say it's not even a head injury, just he goes down with an injury, right? You're thin. What if Elias Paterson goes down with an injury? Filipino's your first line center. What if both of those guys go down? All of a sudden, Aatu Räty, Teddy Blueger, welcome to the top 6. Yeah. That's not a position you want to be in. So even if you look at it and say, yes, Roslovic isn't a true 2C, I would argue that neither is Filipino. Yes, there's a chance for him to take that step. I really like Filipino, the player. Should say that right off the top. But loading up on more of those guys that you know are a step up, at least a step up from Aatu Räty, from Teddy Blueger, who right now are 3 and 4 respectively on your center depth chart. That's what makes a move for Roslovic worth it to me. And hey, we saw it at the end of last season as well. What's stopping you from Teddy Blueger and Aatu Räty on the same roster? Hell, what's stopping you from them being on the same line? I would argue not very much.
Yeah, and look, Räty has played on the wing. We know that he's a face-off demon, but if he, to make the NHL roster, if it means playing on the wing and sliding to the middle to take some draws on the right side, I think you can carve out a role for him. He requires waivers, so I think he's going to make this team out of training camp. As for Roslovic, not a perfect player. I mean, he's unsigned here on the 18th of August. If he was an absolute lock to make every team better, there would have been an arms race to get their hands on Jack Roslovic. So, flawed player, but does he make this version of the Vancouver Canucks in the here and now better? I would say yes, for a lot of the reasons Dave just mentioned there. Flood the position, give yourself some depth and some insulation, and the only acquisition cost is writing a check. Like when people talk about Marco Rossi or go big and go get Mason McTavish, the acquisition cost, forget about the fact that these guys need contracts and the Canucks don't have the kind of cap space right now that they could absorb those players. Although I guess if you're trading bodies, maybe it all works out that way. But Roslovic, it's one phone call and writing a check and you get him here. That's the cost of it. And so I think that's what makes him attractive on, small a attractive at this stage of the summer, is that it really is plug and play, and it's going to be a short-term deal. That's the other thing. You're not locking in and committing probably beyond 2 years, but I would be surprised if it ends up just being a 1-year deal in an escalating cap world where Roslovic, takes what he can get and sort of do the Lankinen and hopefully have a decent season and negotiate off that and recoup what's gone missing here financially for him this summer. So again, we talked about it right off the top. If they wind up with Jack Roslovic, I think he makes this roster better. That may be a small, leap, and this isn't a roster that's going to challenge for a Stanley Cup. But I do think that Jack Roslovic can make the team better, and as you said, make some of those wingers, give them a legitimate, even though he didn't play a ton of center last year, give your wingers some reason to believe and some hope that they're going to play with a guy that can get them the puck and allow them to do what they do best as well. Aatu Räty, much like Lekkerimäki, I mean, he got injured in the playoffs at the AHL level. Short summer here for a guy that has to attack his foot speed. And, I hope that he's had enough time to sort of put in the work necessary. We'll find out. Again, on my list of guys that I really want to see. He had such a strong training camp. Remember last year, he had a strong camp with Höglander and Garland. They played through the preseason, and then Pia Suter got injured. Aatu Räty was in the opening night lineup for the Vancouver Canucks based on the kind of camp and preseason that he had. And so I hope that he, that's fresh in his memory bank that, hey, I did it last year, I can do it again. So I'm really kind of curious to see what a motivated Aatu Räty looks like when they hit the ground in Penticton a month from now.
Nick Pochek said the Canucks have so few assets to trade for a 2C that not signing Roslovic seems like a miss if it doesn't happen. Just to put a bow on the Roslovic conversation, Jeff, the thing I'm wondering is Christian Dvorak got 1 year at over $5 million. You have to think Roslovic's looking for something close to that, given what he's done at the NHL level. If that's the price and that's how it works, they use comparables. I'm sure that's what Roslovic is looking for, right? But can you do the opposite of what you did in the game of chicken you played with Kevin Lankinen? And this is something I talked about with Kevin Woodley a couple weeks ago on the show, where the Canucks said, okay, we want yet a 1-year deal. Lankinen was obviously looking for some security, and they probably could have had Lankinen at 2 or 3 years at $2 or $3 million annually. Now they're going to be paying him a lot more than that. So yes, they won the game of chicken. And when we talked about this last week as well, people even brought up that, well, they didn't really have the cap space. So it's a bit more complex than that. But you understand where I'm going with this, right? Is like, if they have the option to sign Roslovic for 3 years, and I don't know if they do. I don't know exactly what the player's looking for. I don't know exactly what the team's looking for. If they have that option, it feels like one that they should explore, even if you have to give up some term and you have to give out some term to this player. It feels like Nick Pocek said in the chat here, seems like a potential miss if it doesn't happen.
Yeah, and yet there are reports out there that the Toronto Maple Leafs have strong interest and are trying to make the dominoes fall so that they have to clear cap space. The Canucks, as it stands right now, probably can squeeze Roslovic in. I don't think he's going to get what Dvorak got. I think Dvorak was able to capitalize on July 1st and a little more heat in the market then. It does feel like Roslovic's, my guess is it's coming in under $3 million for one season, and that's why I think it'll be a 1-year deal on his part, because he won't want to go through this and miss out again. He'll want to have a decent season and then hopefully cash in as a free agent. But it's not as simple as it's just the Canucks in a vacuum here, and it's a one-on-one team versus player. Who's going to blink first, and that's why I said, like, Lankinen last year. There were teams linked to him, but realistically, with goaltending that late into the summer and training camp, there were only 2 or 3 teams that I think were legitimate landing spots for Kevin Lankinen. I think there are a few more teams at play here for Roslovic. He has to be hoping so. And again, I'm sure it's his hope that one of these teams looks at its roster and thinks, yeah, not good enough to start the season. We better just take the leap here and sign this guy. And that's sort of where the Canucks are. But if they miss out, and you're right, if Philip Hedl gets hurt or if Elias Pettersson struggles again right off the hop here, like, we talk about the need for everything to go right for the Vancouver Canucks to try to prove to Quinn Hughes that, last year was the outlier, that they're going to get traction and they're going to get this thing moving in the right direction. Jack Roslovic doesn't answer all their problems, but I do think that he can come in here and help this hockey club move forward and, again, try and get the best out of some of the wingers rather than... Like, I don't want to see Teddy Blueger play higher in the lineup than a fourth-line center. I don't. He can kill penalties and should be the first guy over the boards. Play the fourth-line role. But if Teddy Blueger gets forced up higher, that's not an answer. I don't think that solves problems for the Vancouver Canucks.
Last one here from Karn. PP1, there's something we haven't talked about a lot, looked really bad after JT was traded. How should it change this season? Should PD become more of a puck handler than a shooting threat? I would say I don't know if I want Elias Pettersson handling the puck if he looks like Elias Pettersson handling the puck last season. Because Elias Pettersson handling the puck on the power play looks like receiving the puck, going to a really wide stance, turning your back, and losing the puck, and then the puck is cleared. If it looks like that, I don't want it. We are hopeful that it doesn't look like that. So yeah, maybe that's an option, but let's also not forget that if we're talking about an Elias Pettersson bounce back, you're hoping that shooting threat becomes more of a shooting threat. He wasn't a real shooting threat last year, even if he was lined up where he could have been. He wasn't one. So you need him to do something. But I think I've covered the Elias Pettersson angle of it. You're nodding. Any other changes that you would have for PP1 beyond just Elias Pettersson needs to play better?
Well, and I want this to come across properly. I mean, Quinn Hughes is the quarterback.
Yeah.
Everything funnels through him, but there are times when it feels like everybody in the building knows that it's going to be Quinn Hughes, and it felt like too many Canucks deferred to Quinn Hughes, that it was always just get the puck to him at the top and then hope that his magic takes over and good things happen, and I don't know that that's necessarily a plan. Where the Canucks were at their best a couple of years ago, obviously, Bo Horvat turned into an absolute bumper ace. Left shot, and JT on the left hash, like, it worked because they were both left-handers, and JT could either fake the pass down low, JT could attack the net, or if the defensemen were drawn out of position, then it was easy as a left-hand guy on the left boards to slide that puck to the interior to Bo. Now they got these, PD was over on the right side, but JT's not here, so you could move Elias Pettersson into the spot that was, held by JT Miller. but who's the bumper guy? Brock Besser's a right-handed shot. That changes the equation. Could it be Jake DeBrusk? Is that an area? I mean, Jake scored 14 power play goals. Half his goals were on the power play last year, but most of those were in the blue paint. Like he became, he had the nose for the net. His timing was perfect to find and hunt out loose pucks. But as a bumper guy, I'm not sure that he's the answer. And so, like, I still wrestle with this idea. Like, how did Quinn Hughes finish with 26 more points than anybody on the hockey club last year? And how do you harness his greatness? You know that he's going to do incredible things. You know he's getting his points, but they give out 3 points on almost every goal. Like, how didn't more guys just have a padded stats and balloon totals just based on the fact they were on the ice with Quinn Hughes? So I'm kind of curious. They've got some, Brett McLean was an offensive guy all through his career. Scott Young scored 40 goals in the National Hockey League, won Stanley Cups. These are fresh faces from outside. I mean, Young's been in the organization, but not as a coach. Like, do they have some new ideas? What do they bring to the power play? Obviously, you got the Twins. You still got Adam Foote's going to oversee the buck stops with him as the head coach. But I mean, I am kind of curious to see, like, what does this power play look like? How do you optimize it? Who's on your top unit? We know that Connor Garland's not much of a shooting threat, but he retrieves pucks, and they used him a lot on entries, and somebody's got to be out there to round out the top 5. But, who, as I sit here right now, I would expect that you're looking at Quinn Hughes, Elias Pettersson, Brock Besser, probably Jake DeBrusk. And then is it as simple as Garland? Does Evander Kane get a look on the power play? Is there somebody else that could slide in there? Yes,
I got one name, and I'm itching to say it, and Karn beat me to it in the chat. Philip Hedl. I was just thinking of all the left-handed guys, and then I was thinking back to the zone entry machine that Philip Hedl was, especially when he first got here, and the clinic he put on entering the zone, because we obviously hadn't seen very much of very many controlled zone entries for a while there last season. I think he would help with the power play zone entries. Again, we've seen Connor Garland get a look on PP1 for that purpose of entering the zone, but he doesn't really do a ton else for me on the power play. So try him on that left, him being Hedl, try him on the left wall there. See if he can do something there. But as you alluded to, Jeff, the playmaking ability is something we still need to kind of see from Philip Hedl, at least as a Canuck. So that'll be interesting to see. But there's another thing. We talk about training camp being a month away. There's something I'm really interested to see. What do those power play formations look like? When do they do power plays, right? Because this was something that didn't happen late. It didn't happen until late in camp, which I also found peculiar. Right. Why you wait until day 4, day 5 to get your power play looks? Like, get on it early. Get on it early.
Remember, that was one of the Rick talked about last year, was we're going to get to special teams early, and then we were there in Penticton, and it wasn't until the morning of the scrimmage, and even then they practiced in their scrimmage groups.
Yes.
And it wasn't like the NHL power play went to work. So, that was strange. Especially after talking to come out and said it a couple of times, we want to get an early jump on our special teams. Now you got a new head coach, and he's familiar with the personnel, but he is the guy calling the shots now. So another thing just to monitor as training camp moves along here. And look, I'm all for whatever. I'm a believer in loading up your best power play. I don't think you want to split and try and find balance on your power play. Yeah. You want PP1 to put the puck in the net and have the other team fish it out, and don't worry if PP2 ever gets a look. So, find me your best 5 that can zip it around and find chemistry. And you're right. Like, I'm not sure that I've got the appetite to watch Elias Pettersson sort of fade away to the sideboards as a decoy. If he's going to get back in and be anything close to the PD of old, like, he needs the puck. He's got to want the puck. He's got to make things happen when he has the puck on his stick. He's got to get his, but he's got to get make the guys around him better as well. But when Quinn Hughes is out there, you know that Quinn's going to have the puck 60% of the time on the power play. That's just the player he is, and the way things seem to work here for the Vancouver Canucks.
Dylan McDonald asking a question that I'm glad someone asked. He said, it's not a big issue, but if Hedl is on PP1, who's the center on PP2? I have been saying this for as long as I've been covering hockey. To anyone that will listen, you do not need a center on your second power play unit. They are never going to have to take a faceoff. You cannot ice the puck when you're on the puck. Or no, they won't ice the puck. They shouldn't ice the puck when they're on the power play. You're not going to need faceoffs. If you do, Atu Ratu, you're still here. Come take a faceoff. Immediately win possession. Hell, Aturatu might be an option for PP1. Go out there, win the faceoff, go for a line change. They do that in overtime. Try it on PP1. But no, it's not a big deal. You don't need a center on your second power play unit. You don't. So I'm glad someone asked about that.
No, I would agree. And look, we've seen that in a lot of recent years here. The Canucks haven't had a natural center on their second power play. And as I said, best case scenario is that you don't need, like it's pie in the sky. You do need a second power play unit, but I think people understand what I'm saying. Like, if your first unit is lethal, you won't care. Trust me, if the first unit is lethal, we won't spend much time wondering who's going to take faceoffs on the second power play unit.
Jeff, anything else before we wrap up?
No, I mean, I'm just like, it's been a long off season, obviously. And as I said, like, you can kind of feel, I would expect that guys are going to be arriving back in town here by the end of the month. And, you know, I'm not sure if you've touched on it in previous episodes, but the Jake Milford golf tournament, which is really the unofficial kickoff to every Canucks season, it always was the Monday after Young Stars. And management would leave Penticton and hustle back to be on hand because it's season ticket holders, it's corporate sponsors, a lot of handshaking, and it's a big deal. And this year it's on September 8th, which is interesting because that's 10 full days before training camp. Now, there is no Young Stars. There's the 2 games against the Kraken prospect south of the line. But, like, all the players are expected to be on hand, present, and ready to, again, smile and, you know, press the flesh with season ticket members at the golf tournament. So if September 8th, that's a Monday, that's 3 weeks from now, you know, you would think guys would be back in certainly around Labor Day and get that week of skates in. I think there's going to be a fair bit of those informal skates. And 2 years ago, when everything did go right for the Canucks, a lot of them were back early. They got a lot of that team bonding in and then hit the ground running. So I think it's got to be by design that the Jake Milford was bumped up earlier than usual to ensure that everybody's here and the hockey season will get underway. So really, 3 weeks from now, like if we haven't already, I would think we'll hear from some of the key members of the Vancouver Canucks that day. They usually do a little bit of media, and from that point on, you know, it'll be all systems go to training camp in Penticton.
It's going to be a good time. Jake Milford, another thing we're sending a lot of people to. It's going to be a lot of content coming from Canucks Army soon. Make sure you're reading at CanucksArmy.com. Where did it go? I had one last thing I wanted to bring up. Oh, no, it's just our bet. I just got to get to our bet. All right, let's do it.
I see Jacob's giving us the Tyler update in the
Oh, yeah, that was it. That was it. Yeah, Tyler's at 1,250
balls hit. He's had his shirt off for an hour and a half now, and everyone's telling him he needs to club up. You can see they have a camera kind of like in an ISO back of the green. There's not a single ball on the green, and I see about 15 of them sitting on the fringe or fairway just in front of the green. So I think it's time to club up.
Well, that makes perfect sense. He's going to start to fade away, right?
And if you club up, I'm sorry, if you club up, I think it's harder to hit a hole in one. Like you're relying way more on chance. If you're hitting a solid 8-iron and you got some good loft on that thing, I think it's easier. So I don't know.
Tyler has not been going for loft and sticking it. He's been hitting low shots, trying to bounce it and roll it on the green for the last.
Who picked 160?
Probably 7 hours.
That's like a pretty deep par 3. Why can't he do 120, 130?
Exactly. That was my thinking right off the hop when I heard it was 160. I was like, man, like that's a big ask. So good luck to Tyler. We'll keep our fingers crossed.
He finally put one on the green though. So hey, maybe
it's hockey in the chat says bro is not Tiger Woods.
No, he certainly is not.
All right, let's get to our Bet365 bet of the day, brought to you by, you guessed it, Bet365. The Toronto Blue Jays are taking on the Pittsburgh Pirates. Now, the Pittsburgh Pirates, who aren't very good at baseball, are the favorites to win that game. Now, the reason for that is that Paul Skeens, who is good at baseball and is really good at throwing baseballs, is starting for them tonight. Now, thing that people don't seem to get is that the Pittsburgh Pirates aren't very good at baseball. So they need to put up runs to win the baseball game. I don't think that's going to happen. So I am taking the Blue Jays money line, the underdog Toronto Blue Jays, to beat the lowly Pittsburgh Pirates. You can get the Toronto Blue Jays money line at minus 105 odds right now on Bet365. Whatever your bet is, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app and get in on the game. Use the code NATION at Bet365. Must be 19 plus to play. Please play responsibly. Yes.
Is it Gossman on the
It
mound
is.
for the Blue Jays?
It is. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's not like the Jays are throwing nobody out there. Gosman's having a pretty solid year. Like,
Yeah.
if anyone's going to match up against Skeens,
you know who Gosman looks like? I don't know if I've ever told this, or what's the guy from the Smurfs, the bad guy? What's his name? Gargamel. Yeah, Google Gargamel and then Kevin Gosman. Put it next to each other. Like the live action Smurfs actor for Gargamel doesn't, like, Kevin Gosman would have done a better job. Tell me I'm wrong. Jacob, pull it up. Jeff, pull it up. Look at it. I'm right.
I see where you're coming from.
I thought I would have at least told this to Jacob on one of our car rides. Am I right? I'm right.
I won't go that far, but I'll say I know where you're coming from.
It's the nose.
It's the nose, but Gargamel's also like got the Krusty the Clown balding hair, and I don't think.
Okay, not the hair, but he's got the eyebrows too. Like he's got the eyebrows. Throw a beard on Gargamel. Yeah. Anyway. All right.
I didn't think we'd be getting Smurf talk in at the end, but hey.
Last thing I want to say is we uploaded another video in our series of video essays onto the Canucks Army YouTube channel. Another one from the early 2000s, West Coast Express era. This one looking at the goal that Dan Cloutier gave up in Game 3 of their 2002 playoff series against Detroit. I mean, hey, the Canucks were up 2-0 in the series against one of the greatest rosters ever assembled. What could have been, but also we take a look at how the Canucks got there, because between franchise icons Kirk McLean and Roberto Luongo, there are a lot of different men to suit up in the blue paint for the Vancouver Canucks. And you know what? Maybe Dan Cloutier deserves a little bit more credit for what he did with the Canucks than he ultimately ended up getting. So a great video. I'll post the link into the chat here for those watching live. Anyone watching later or listening to podcasts, just head over to the Canucks Army YouTube channel. You'll find it there.
You know what we really need? I was going to make a joke about, what other awful things in Canucks history could we make videos about? But I just thought of this. Like, a lot of people don't know why Canucks fans hate Mark Messier so much. They really don't. And a few of my Oilers colleagues went on their own little scavenger hunt and came back to me and said, "Oh my gosh, yeah, okay, it all makes sense." So maybe that'll be one that we do down the road, is why Canucks fans hate Mark Messier so much. And people in the chat also agree with my Gargamel Gosman comparison, by the way. They're saying I'm 100% right. Yeah, I didn't mean it as a diss. Although, yeah, I didn't mean it as a diss. I know it's not a great character to be compared to, but you know, it's true.
There's so many happy Smurfs, and you pick the villain, the bad guy.
Well, he doesn't look like the Smurfs. He looks like Gargamel. All right. Anything else from either of you boys? We'll wrap up there. All right. Well, Jeff, thanks so much for doing this. I'll be
actually, Quads,
next time we talk.
Yes, I was going to say we probably should let people know no show for the rest of this week, no show next week either. You know, Quads is getting married. I've still got a bit of time off that I'm going to take. And then, you know what? At the end of next week, it is the end of August.
Yeah,
you know,
and
two Mondays from now is September 1st. So we will be back in September with a lot more of a regular schedule. And hey, after training camp, we're back to 5 days a week, Monday to Friday.
Oh, I thought we were there before that, but cool.
Well,
all right.
I think we'll probably be doing 5 shows a week, but it'll be a little different.
We got to figure it out, folks.
Yeah, there'll be some days off,
Labor Day's on the Monday, September 1st this year. Kids are back to school. Like, it's go time on September 2nd, essentially. So
so expect 4 or 5 shows a week once we hit September, and then tons of coverage from training camp, live shows every night. Jeff will be doing some rink-wide coverage from Penticton as well. And hey, then we'll get into preseason, and Canucks hockey will be back.
Gonna be a good time. All right, folks, we'll wrap it up there. For my co-host,
next time you see Quads, he's gonna be a married man.
I'll have a ring. Oh, man. Okay, here, quickly, I'll say this. Jeff, do you love wearing a ring? Because, man, I got mine. I bought it like 3 months ago, and obviously I'm not allowed to wear it yet, which is dumb. I want to wear it. I'm going to be a big ring guy. I like wearing a ring. I like the way it felt. I want to have it, and I want to keep it on. And I'm actually a little PO'd that I haven't been able to wear it for the past 3 months.
I was... Like, the actual wearing of the ring was fairly indifferent. Didn't find it to be a huge change. I'm not a massive jewelry guy, but I will say in recent years I've added one on this hand. So double dipping and still going strong after all these years with this.
Yeah, I gotta ask you.
My wife watches Canucks. Well, my wife watches Canucks Convo all the time. So yes, I love wearing this ring.
I asked Woodley and I asked PJ for marriage advice, and I almost forgot to ask you your best marriage advice.
Remember that the wedding day is one day. The marriage is for the rest of your life. So as much as everybody wants their wedding day to be absolutely perfect, if things go sideways, years from now, you just look back and you can hopefully laugh about them. Don't fret the small stuff on your wedding day. You want it to be a party for everybody. You're trying to celebrate your marriage, but with the people that mean the most to you. So try to keep that in perspective and just play the long game here that the wedding is one day, the marriage hopefully is a lifetime.
Good advice, Jeff. Good advice. I'm hoping it is a lifetime. All right, we'll wrap it up there. For my co-host, Jeff Paterson, my wise co-host, Jeff Paterson, and our technical producer, Jacob Lazar, my name's Dave Rogelli. Thanks so much to the episode of Canucks Conversation.
Canucks Conversation is live Monday through Friday, every weekday at 2 p.m. over on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, and interact in the YouTube live chat every day with us, folks.